Late at night, rain pounded the quiet city streets as a black man in a worn jacket walked toward a closed diner, hands visible, movements calm. He wasn't causing trouble. He wasn't breaking any laws. He simply asked, with a respectful voice, "Is there somewhere I can wait for my ride?" But Officer Carter had already judged him by his clothes, by his skin, by his silence. With one cold smirk, he shoved the man back, accusing him of loitering, of looking suspicious. The man kept his composure, swallowing the humiliation, responding only, "Sir, I'm just waiting." As thunder cracked overhead, the cop leaned in and hissed, "People like you don't belong here." The man's eyes finally lifted, steady, confident, almost authoritative. Who exactly was this man the cop just disrespected, and what would tomorrow bring? Earlier that day, the man's life looked very different. His name was Michael Harris, and behind the plain clothing and tired eyes was a man who carried the weight of a nation's secrets. As an undercover FBI director, he spent years dismantling criminal networks, protecting people who would never know his name. But today was supposed to be simple, a rare day off, a chance to breathe. He had traveled into this small town to visit his late mother's grave, a quiet place she loved for its peacefulness. He brought fresh flowers and a promise he had whispered for years, "I'll keep making you proud." Yet peace never seemed to last long around Michael. As he waited for a colleague to pick him up, he noticed the way people watched him, polite smiles fading into suspicion the longer their eyes lingered. Still, he remained calm. He wasn't here to draw attention. He wasn't here to reveal who he was. Officer Carter, meanwhile, had built a reputation in that town, not for bravery or service, but for power trips and snap judgments. He believed authority was earned by intimidation, not respect. And when he saw Michael standing alone in the rain, wearing a jacket too ordinary for someone important, his assumptions took over. He sensed it before it happened, that look, that posture, the kind that said, "I get to decide what happens here." He took a slow breath, remembering the oath he lived by, protect even when disrespected. But as Carter demanded answers, barking accusations that cut deeper than any weapon, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in years, a quiet, simmering disappointment. People judged him for who they thought he was, never for the truth he carried. And tomorrow, that truth would shatter someone's world. Early morning sunlight washed over the town, but the memory of last night still stung Michael like a fresh bruise. He tried to brush it off. "Not worth it," he whispered to himself. He'd faced far worse in his line of work. One disrespectful cop shouldn't ruin his peace. But life had other plans. As he stepped into the quiet diner for breakfast, the room froze. The same people who'd watched him from a distance now stared openly, whispering, judging. A waitress hesitated before approaching, clutching her notepad as if it were a shield. Coffee?" she asked, eyes avoiding his. Michael gave a gentle nod, determined not to let their fear define him. Then the door swung open. Officer Carter walked in, chest puffed up like a hero returning from battle. He spotted Michael immediately and smirked. "Well, well, still hanging around," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Silence tightened the room. People looked down, pretending not to witness the humiliation. Michael didn't respond. He simply sipped his coffee, calm and dignified. That only angered Carter more. He stepped closer, knocking Michael's elbow just enough to spill the cup. Hot coffee splashed across the table. Gasps echoed. Michael stood slowly, eyes steady, refusing to be provoked. "Clean that up, or I'll take you in for causing a disturbance." Something inside Michael cracked. Not anger, but sadness. He saw fear in the waitress's eyes. He saw shame in an old man's lowered head. This wasn't about him anymore.
It was about a community trapped in silence. Outside, Michael's phone buzzed, a message from his colleague. Director Harris, briefing with the mayor at 10 a.m., uniformed escort arriving soon. A shift in the air, the calm before a storm. As Michael walked out, Carter followed, still itching for control. "You think ignoring me makes you better?" he hissed. Michael paused just once. "No," he replied softly, "but someday you'll understand." Sirens blared down the street, multiple police SUVs speeding toward the diner. Carter's grin widened. "Finally," he said, "back up." But the SUVs didn't stop for Carter. They surrounded Michael. Officers stepped out and saluted. The diner windows filled with stunned faces. Carter's smirk collapsed into confusion and fear. Officer Carter stumbled backward as the uniformed escort formed a tight line around Michael. The captain stepped forward, voice sharp as a blade. "Director Harris, sir, the mayor is waiting. We're here to bring you in safely." "Director. Sir." Every word slammed into Carter like a punch. Michael turned, eyes calm but heavy with truth. His cover was gone. The audience was everyone in that street. Carter's hand hovered near his holster, trembling. "This is some kind of joke," he muttered, desperate for control that was slipping through his fingers. But one of the escorting officers snapped back. "Show respect. You're standing in front of the FBI Director of Operations." Whispers like wind. "FBI? Director? That man?" Michael didn't gloat. He didn't yell. Instead, he stepped closer to Carter, close enough to see the fear hidden behind his badge. "You judged me before you knew me," he said quietly, yet every syllable carried the weight of the badge Carter abused. "Your job is to protect people, not belittle them." Carter's breath hitched. Pride turned to panic. His authority gone. The captain approached, holding a report. "Director Harris, we reviewed last night's incident. Officer Carter violated multiple protocols: harassment, abuse of authority, and misconduct." Gasps rippled across the crowd. Carter's world shattered in the very place he thought he ruled. Michael gave one last look, not of revenge, but of hope the officer might finally change. "I believe people can do better," he said softly. "Prove me right." As Carter was asked to remove his badge, his hand shook. The town stared, seeing truth, seeing consequences, seeing the man they misjudged rise without ever raising his voice. The message was loud. Respect isn't earned by a uniform. It's earned by humanity. And tomorrow's headlines would reveal everything. The mayor personally greeted Director Harris at City Hall, apologizing again and again for what he endured. But Michael didn't want revenge. He wanted change. He requested a meeting, not with politicians, but with the police department and local residents. That evening, the same diner that had felt cold and unwelcoming became a space for truth. People listened as Michael spoke, not about the badge he carried or the authority he had, but about dignity, respect, and the dangers of assumptions. Officer Carter sat in the back, stripped of his uniform, stripped of his pride. When the meeting ended, he quietly approached Michael. His voice unsteady, he managed, "I'm sorry. I was wrong." Michael looked him in the eyes, no anger, no superiority. "I forgive you, but don't waste the lesson." Carter nodded, knowing his second chance would be the hardest mission of his life. Days later, something surprising happened. The town changed. People greeted strangers with kindness instead of suspicion. A small community became a safer one, not because of rules, but because of respect. As Michael left, flowers in hand for his mother, he smiled toward the sky. Maybe this was the moment she always hoped he would create, A moment where one act of injustice sparked a wave of humanity. Because sometimes the strongest power isn't authority. It's how we treat those we don't understand. So here's the question. If the person you judge today turns out to be a hero tomorrow, what does that make you?